You're listening to the Aftergrad podcast. I'm Robert Kane.
And I'm Victoria, and we are your fellow Aftergrads trying to find clarity and security in this postgrad moment.
On this show, we discuss the societal pressures that stand to mold us into inauthentic versions of ourselves while striving to make our dreams a reality.
We welcome you on this journey as we try to navigate bills, careers, the pandemic, and who knows what else.
But today marks the last episode of season 1 of the Aftergrad podcast. We made it 15 episodes strong. And we really just wanted this to be a discussion to bring the show and the season full circle, reflecting on some of the concerns and questions that we had when we were first graduating and embarking on this aftergrad journey, and then bringing it all the way around to reflect on some of the fears and concerns that we might have as we kind of transition into this second year or sophomore year, if you will, of being an aftergrad.
Yeah. Coming at the end of our first year in the school of life. There was a lot of fears that we faced at the beginning, and now at the end of it, I'm looking back like, it wasn't that bad. I'm still here. Right. I'm okay. And things are still moving. Now, of course, the next set of fears have settled in, and we'll address those too.
We will. Yeah, no, I definitely think that on the flip side of it, it really wasn't as difficult as I made it out to be, at least internally. I know I had a lot of stressors that were weighing down on my spirit, especially after the plans that I put into place didn't fall into place like I wanted them to. So it definitely was lots of adjustment, lots of just saying, you know what, the universe, take the wheel, right? Yeah. And I'm very happy with how things wound up for us. I mean, we moved here to DC in September, August, and now it feels like one full year, almost as if we were back at an academic institution. We're finishing this off in May.
In college, my freshman year, I created this daunting monster that, like, what the heck am I about to get into? And very similar feelings here in the quote-unquote real world, right? I created this idea that it's going to be tough, it's going to be hard, but it wasn't that. It's not that bad. Right. Yes, there's ups and downs, but at the end of it, we still have smiles on our faces. Right. And I'm so proud of how far we've come and how consistent we stayed the course. And also the things that we projected and executed so well.
It's about the consistency.
It's the consistency for me.
My dad, one of the things that he instilled in me when I was younger is the act of showing up regardless of whether or not you actually feel like it. Whenever I did a sport or I said I was going to play tennis, that was always his rule of thumb. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. And no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You show up. Even if you give 0% that day, you show up, you are present, you are there because you said you were going to be there. And I think that we embodied that with the podcast, with our personal relationships that we made with mentors, etc. But we actually have another case study that we want to share with you all, and it's funny because this particular aftergrad is 4 years out of university, and I think that's actually perfect for this discussion because we're transitioning into a new year, a new phase of our aftergrad journey. But it's nice to hear that someone further along in their aftergrad journey also might have similar concerns that we'll face in the future. So with that, let's hop into this case study.
This is a new segment that we're bringing to the podcast, so get familiar with it. It's the more the merrier. The more stories that we get, the more we can do this segment. Case study. Essentially, you submit your story. It can be anonymous, or you can say your name if you want to. You can say the school's names that you're thinking or considering about, or like the things that you plan on doing. Whatever you're comfortable with. You can come here, and then we hope to discuss it with our fellow Aftergrads. Right.
And today's case study is actually sent by an anonymous Aftergrad, so we're going to read it, all right? I'm going to pull it up. It's a really long one, so please bear with us as we go through all the paragraphs.
Much appreciated, because I need context.
Yes, we need context, right. So, you know, it's fine if you don't want to send in a lengthy scenario or situation that pertains to your scenario as an aftergrad, but that's
the more specific you are,
the more better advice we can give to you, and we can relate to you. So I'm super excited.
Try to give advice, or just tell our thoughts.
Exactly. So again, you know who you are. Thank you for submitting this to us. So we're gonna read through it. It's a lot, so bear with us. So it says, "Hi Aftergrad podcast. I'm 4 years out of college, and I just got accepted to 2 grad school programs. One has a bigger name in New York City. The other one is well known in Los Angeles, and that is the city I currently reside and want to build in. Both schools are expensive. The New York school gave me no money." I hate that. That's what these universities are doing nowadays. They're just saying, you know what, come here,
I'm like trying to hold my breath. I'm trying to wait till the end.
Of course, right. And then the LA school paid for half the program. Okay, a little money. We appreciate that. but it would leave me still with $40K in loans.
Okay.
Both programs are humanities centered, and I want to be considered a cultural expert. I want to be able to work for museums and other art institutions with this degree, and I do have a pretty good job already. I am not at my 6-figure goal yet, but I have space to grow in my company. I love that. I love that you think that there's space to grow and room to improve at your current position. That's wonderful. That's important to consider. And my current career is not in the arts, however, but I am not unhappy. Also, a positive. You're not unhappy. My parents have been wanting me to go to grad school for so long, and my sister and my romantic partner are both in master's programs as well. I personally love learning, but I'm not the biggest fan of academic structure. Should I go to grad school and get into the career I want, or should I stay in my current career and work up to that financial goalpost? P.S. Love the work you both are doing. Keep it up.
Aww.
Thank you, friend. We appreciate you. So that's our case study. There's a lot.
There's a lot to unpack.
There's a lot to unpack. Should we go back to the top and kind of just work our way through, or do you have some initial thoughts that you want to share?
No. Let's hop right into it. First of all, congratulations.
Right.
I hope you've taken a moment to like have gratitude for the accomplishment you just made. You applied to 2 schools and you got into both.
Got into both. That's huge.
That's great. It sounds like it sounds like the goal job is to be kind of, in my brain, I'm thinking like curator vibes,
cultural theorist, someone that has their pulse on pop culture, issues that are pertaining to race.
And they can draw back to like a certain date and then, know the reference of the piece and stuff like that. Yeah, that causes for a lot of knowledge and detail work. Not necessarily like the everyday person would know the things that he would know.
Definitely
right?
Not.
So yeah, honestly, an academic setting, brick and mortar, does sound, promising, especially to exercise that side of you when you're currently working in a job that's not so artistic.
Right.
So in that regards, I completely hear where you're coming from. And you're probably also feeling the pressures. He, took the time to mention that his sister and his partner are in masters. So he's probably observing and witnessing them get deeper and dive more further beyond what maybe a job force or the internet can provide, and it's probably like I kind of want to get into that, or I'm probably ready for that. And in that regards, I like that for you. I really do like that for your specific goal and career. I do like it. However, the 40K, the 40K. Okay, so my first question is, do you know 5 people who have similar to, because you don't want to limit yourself to believe, like I'm in a place now, I used to look at one person who had the job I wanted and then I would analyze them, but now I look at one person and then maybe a job that's standing right next to that, like something similar, so I can keep an open mind as to what paths I can take. But can you line up 5 people who are in the similar field, or their job description is what you are shooting for, and look at their background and see if the master's is in their back pocket? And likely with the curator roles and like museum roles, they typically do, because they have to draw back on history and stuff like that. However, look at their pay, like
that's
their
important.
Income, their
Please
income.
do. Check out their income. Do a quick Google search.
Right. And this is remember, this is the job that you dream of having in the later years. Right.
It doesn't have to be immediate.
So it won't. That's the thing. It won't. That income won't be immediate. You have to take that in consideration.
Yes.
But I'm looking at the most positive outcome. Right. You get that position. Can you span out over time how long it will take to cover that 40K with that income eventually? Yeah. That's my
also,
first question. Yeah, and if not, try to find those who, if all of them seem to have master's degrees, try to find one person who didn't, and like kind of look at their route.
They're out there.
Right, and it's not to say follow their paths. It's just to start, grabbing inspiration from a lot of different paths to then kind of draft up your own and feel confidence in that. You're welcome to intrude.
I was eating up everything you said. No, let me hop in. I think I really appreciated what you were saying about doing the research on people that are pursuing similar careers. If it's the curator, if it's the cultural theorist, whatever that role looks like, art, design expert, research those people and see if they have a master's degree, see what their career trajectory looks like, and maybe reach out to them, ask them questions. If you can't get into contact with them, just use their LinkedIn, their career trajectory as a barometer for what you should consider.
Yeah.
And without even going into what we talked about on our previous episode where we were going back and forth on whether or not a degree is still worth it, if that ROI is actually paying off, that $40K is a lot. So also, we're living in such a shifting moment in terms of the way that work is changing. So I encourage you to look at the starting salary of your particular program, as well as cross-checking with other programs across the country or across the world with people that are pursuing something similar to you, so that you can get an idea of how long it will take you to pay that money back. And then also check, like you said, the people who didn't pursue a graduate degree program and see what their starting salary or their salary change rate looks like over time. So that, again, what you're trying to do, I think, is just get an idea of, especially since the options that you submitted to us will require you to go into debt, you want to see how long it'll take you to pay that money back. But
and then with knowing that time, ask yourself, how comfortable do you feel with that? Because for me personally, I have a number in my head on how much debt I'm willing to be in and how long I'm willing to stay in it. And everyone is different. And if you're comfortable with that mentally, because it does, finances really does have a mental toll on us. And then if you have a mental toll, that's just a trickling effect into how you're productive in everyday living. Right? So like, personally, once you look at those numbers, does it add up? And then my second question would be, that can also impact the income, is while you're getting the master's degree, do you plan on being a full-time student or a part-time student? Right? I know a lot of us, we feel like we can handle it all, but a part-time student, it would likely take longer to finish the program. Well, now the numbers are shifting because the longer you're in the institution, the more money I feel like would have to come up front. And then if you're a full-time student, well, then there's very little wiggle room for you to actually simultaneously work with the current office he currently likes. Right? Exactly. And then he's saying that he finds a lot of growth in his current company.
That's healthy. Love that for you.
I really love that. So my question is, if we aren't looking at the graduate route, yes, you love it, but how comfortable are you in it? Are you very comfortable where you know everything with your eyes closed and you don't feel like you're being pushed anymore? Because sometimes when you love something and it gets comfortable, I always like to take a moment and see if it's, I love it and I'm still being pushed. Right? So because, like you said, you're not at your ultimate goal yet. So you want to make sure you're keeping the pedal to the metal on where you're going. So currently, right now, before the master's or with the master's, do you see space? Like you said, he said he sees space to grow.
He sees space to
grow. Is he growing?
Is he growing?
Is he feeling the pressure? Does he ever come like, oh my God, like I'm so perplexed right now?
Exactly.
Do you have those moments? Because if you do, and they do feel uncomfortable, that means that's great.
That's good.
I really like that for
I
him.
do. I would also encourage you to have a conversation with yourself and ask yourself, why am I applying to this grad school? Why do I want to go to this grad school program? Because again, on this channel, we're always talking about the pressures and the overlying reasons as to why we're pursuing things, and if those reasons are outside of ourselves or coming from other individuals or societal pressures.
Are you hopping up and down in your chair when you read the description of the program?
Because if so, that's great. Then okay, that means you do want to do it for yourself and you see it adding value, because that's ultimately what we care about. As long as it's adding value to us, then I'm okay with us assuming certain levels of debt. For me, and this is something that one of the older people in my life shared with me, and I definitely think it's true, graduate degree programs, I mean, that's really an opportunity for you to specialize heavily. So if you're doing generic programs, I would encourage you to reconsider, but also a primary reason to go to grad school for me is networking. You're working in a journalistic role, and I know you're meeting incredible people from the features and interviews that you're writing. So it's not as if you're not growing. You're definitely growing in this type of career field. And then I would even encourage you, as a journalist, you do sometimes have freedom to pitch what you want to talk about.
To have that niche.
So try to maybe consider focusing that journalistic energy towards the niche that you're interested in, which is art and culture. So if you can do that, then you'll be exercising what you are hoping to study in that grad program while still receiving that paycheck and security net of the salary
Yeah.
under that
And
organization.
that leads in regards to the comparison between the school in New York and the school in California. He mentioned that he wants to build in California. My ultimate, like, if you are gung-ho for going to graduate school now, my vote is California IA, because you already said that you see yourself in this space, and they're giving you at least half of it. If the reason why you're still considering the other school is simply because of stature, I would not go there. I really highly encourage us, because I think like that all the time as well, but I have to remind myself that's not what gets you to your dream spot at the end of the day. It's you, and it's your vision, and it's your manifestation. Period. So like, don't question whether or not, if you decide not to go to that bigger school, whether it will determine whether or not you'll get that position. You will regardless. And so with that in mind, the choices, you say you love California, you're already building foundation there.
You're there currently.
The money is there as well. Your mental stability is in California. So that if you're picking between the two, that's my leeway on that.
I would agree entirely. I think it just makes more sense, especially because they are the institution that gave you the money. I mean, you're going to be assuming more debt. And the only reason that I would suggest to choose the university in New York, because obviously you're going to be taking out more debt and more loans to assume that degree.
And I do want to add, uprooting is expensive.
That's expensive too. You're going to have to go back to New York City.
To New York.
And to move away from Los Angeles where you're already at.
Part-time or full-time student.
Part-time or full-time.
In New York
What does that
City.
look like? Right, because if you're not working and you don't have that stable income, whatever that looks like, that's going to be a challenge.
And we're considering the worst-case scenario. If you don't apply to scholarships and so forth. That's the bear.
That's the bear, yeah.
That's a lot to consider. My last thing is, if you have this niche, right, and your job is not permitting you to write to that audience, maybe you can do some personal writing on your own time, and then also find areas and avenues in which you can present that piece. And, you know, that's another way you can get recognition for who you are and like what you're about, and you can meet more people. So just thinking out the box in that regards, if you decide not to go the master's route, what are other accolades that you can attain? Right,
because ultimately, especially with a career in art and culture like you're trying to pursue, journalism, it is oftentimes about the personal work that you are creating for yourself. It's less structured seemingly, right? It's work that kind of attaches your name. You know, you are being known for how you think and the decisions that you make in a creative environment. And no master's degree is really going to showcase that. It's only going to give you access to new individuals and a new space. So, you know, I think let's wrap it up. We do want to give you a tangible answer based on your situation. So what would you say? Would we send this fellow Aftergrad to New York City to pursue his master's degree at the New York institution, or would we choose the California institution, the one that gave us half tuition, or would we just not do the degree program at all? And I feel like this is going to have to be a nuanced response. You know, I think this is definitely some gray area. I think if you listen to our episode where we were talking about the return of investment of a college education, maybe your perspective has changed on the matter. I know mine certainly has after walking through that whole research process and sharing that with all of you. I would say, ultimately, because I have to stay firm in the perspective that I shared, the degree is not essential in this particular scenario. And if I were in your shoes, I would say thank you for admitting me, thank you for offering me half tuition, New York, you can choke because you didn't want to give me any money. And I'm going to go and build this on my own. I'm in a position that I'm not unhappy in. That's really important for me. You're in a position that you're not unhappy in. We want to be happy in our position, but we can't always have everything in the immediate moment. And the fact that you're not unhappy leads me to suggest to you, go ahead and write it out. You said that there's room for growth. So in this time, see if there's ways that you can exercise that artistic side, that cultural side of you to build a platform for yourself with that large network that I'm sure your publication has access to. And those are my final words to you, my friend.
If you feel like you have time aside from work to cater to that half of you that eventually wants to step into like more of the arts, then do that. If you go to like the tour, or you go to, you know, talk to the alumni and the network who did the program and ask them where they are now and what they would do different, and that changes your heart and you feel like something you know, your heart thumping a little bit at the idea of going to get the master's, then my suggestion would be to go to the California one for sure.
Right.
Like the New York one just should not be consideration.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
All of the indicators are saying Los Angeles or no master's degree program, or wait it out, because again, I want to give space to the idea that you really might want this master's degree program. And my goodness, we might even want to go back and get our master's degree. So we might very well be in a similar situation to you that we're sharing with you. I think that...
Do you plan on getting your master's anytime soon?
I can't even think that far ahead, and I'm not trying to think that far ahead right now. In the past, I definitely would have said yes, and if I'm reflecting on where I was a year ago, the answer was absolutely. I wanted it immediately after I graduated, and I like the idea of getting it, and I've already shared my perspective on that. As long as it's paid for, and I have all of it covered, housing, etc., whatever that looks like, I'll figure it out. I do like the idea, because there is data that suggests that one can make more money from having a master's degree program, and you have access to other positions. As we shared, that's not always the case, but there is strong data that leads to that being a fact. So I wanted to... Where was I going with this? I was going to say that I want to give you space to reflect and say, maybe I do still want this degree, but maybe not right now. And as we always talk about, maybe you got into these programs, but wait it out and maybe reapply and see if there's another way that you can get it funded.
Exactly, because giving yourself a little bit more time gives yourself time to think.
Exactly.
And live a little bit more to process what you actually want. Because you're probably looking at it and you're like, I don't even know if I want this.
Right.
That's a very great point. Maybe it's not the time for you to want it, right?
Yeah.
And it's okay if someone else is currently in the motion of it.
Yeah.
Maybe your time is literally next year and you need this like 1 year and something happens where you're like, ooh, yeah, I want it right now. And for me, I'm the same way. I used to be so adamant about getting it right after, but now I'm at a place where, in fact, I read through all the programs. I wanted to go get an MBA.
Yeah.
And I was reading them and I was like, this just sounds like multiple conferences lined up for me to just meet people. And I'm not in a place where I want to do that right now.
Yeah.
All the courses sounded like stuff I was going over in college.
Sure.
And I did not want to go over it again in depth.
Yeah.
And I wanted to live a little bit more. So now I'm at a place where I probably won't get my next degree until I'm like 29, 30. And I'm happy with that. The programs that I really loved, they wanted that 10-year experience.
Yeah.
And let me be specific. Now I want an EMBA. The EMBA spoke so loudly to me compared to an MBA.
Yeah.
And I'll also be at a better standing financially to be able to support myself, because I know I know where I'm going to be in the next couple of years.
We do, absolutely.
And the turnover will be gracious enough for me to be able to afford an EMBA with or without the scholarship.
Yeah.
But with who I'm going to be, I know I'll be good with.
You'll be fine with it. So those were our 2 cents. That was a really good case study.
I really
Thank you for sharing that with us. We appreciate
it. I hope we were helpful.
Yeah. No, literally. I mean, I definitely feel like I learned something from talking out this scenario. You know, I think we'll definitely be in this situation in the future. And I mean, on that note, that kind of gets...
revisit it every year. Like, do I want to go?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I've even expressed to you that I do want to reapply to Fulbright this year, and I very well might. I haven't made up my mind entirely, but, you know, I think it's time. We were also in a very competitive year, so I just want to see, like, what's going on. If the application now reads better, if I can improve it somehow.
I mean, but look at these countries, too. They're still closed off.
Y'all are very shut down.
Yeah, so I'm not in a rush at all.
Yeah.
I know the opening. Again, like we said in the last episode, it will seem so easy. As long as you don't feel like you're pushing yourself into something to make a shoe fit, then
you'll be fine.
You'll be fine.
Yeah. And that's the moral of the story. That's the moral of the theme for this particular case study.
Yeah, great case study. And now we're going to hop into our thoughts, our final thoughts. We wanted to address the fears that we faced when we first exited college, and then if we confronted those fears or questions after a year out of college. And then we want to leave you guys with our new questions that are in my mind or in our minds.
Our minds, my mind, your minds, potentially.
Right. I'm sure there's commonalities between all of them. And, you know, hopefully by sharing it, we can bring comfort to someone listening in.
Yeah.
So, any fears that you faced when... What were the fears? Not any.
Yeah, because they definitely existed when I was trying to figure out where's this money going to come from, where's this next job going to come from, do I stay?
Right, April.
You know what? I think I'm not a person that quits. I refuse. I don't know how to, but I did nonetheless, you know, with my position. So, fear of quitting is difficult. It's such a stressful situation, especially as someone that has bills to pay and is always thinking about how is this money going to serve me, but also the people that I care about. So back in October, if you've been listening to the show, thank you, we appreciate you. You know that I quit my internship that could have turned into a full-time position. And that was such a fear-ridden situation for me because I chose inconsistent income. I chose payless nights, mornings, afternoons, weeks, days over a security blanket from a 2-week paycheck. And I never imagined myself doing that or having... I am a courageous person, but still it took courage to do that, and I just never felt like I would do that. So that was a big fear. You know, that kind of precludes the whole graduating, being an aftergrad in the early days of May and August, but still that was definitely one of my fears, quitting. And, you know, we shared a case study in the previous episode where one of our fellow aftergrads quit their job. Congrats to you. Love that for you.
Yeah.
And it's the best decision that I've made in this freshman year as an aftergrad, quitting my position, choosing inconsistent income, because guess what? The income came. I'm still here, roof over my head, returning home to see my mom, to see my pets, miss them dearly. And I didn't look back, and I haven't looked back. I'm so happy for that decision.
For you.
And sending in that 2 weeks notice, like, I'm done. So that doesn't necessarily connect back to, you know, the early days of us being an aftergrad in April and May, but I really haven't looked back after choosing to quit my internship that could have been turned into a full-time position, a full, relatively healthy salary, right? And I think that just opened me up to, I can do it. I can create this life that I want on my own, or bring people like you into the fold, and it's going to be okay because I have you to support me. I have other individuals who are pouring into me, i.e. my mentor, you know, and that goes into one of my other fears, but I want you to share one of your fears that you faced before I hop into another one of mine.
Okay. I feel like my biggest thing for me was I'm stubborn. I'm a Taurus.
You're a Taurus,
I'm extremely stubborn, and one thing that I'm stubborn in is doing something that I actually want to do. So like quitting something never if it wasn't resonating with me, it wasn't ever like a problem for me. But luckily I always know, with me being very particular about what I get into, I never had to face the quitting situation where I went in and then went out, right? Not to say that was happening with you. I'm just saying some people might go into a job and thinking they want it and then go, but
and that's okay.
Yeah,
that's another point that I wanted to make too.
Fine.
Like,
if
that's
they can make that quick,
because we can't always know where we're going to be at or how experiences are going to shape us and how we feel, because we've been told so many things about maybe the corporate environment, maybe about a particular industry. So, you know, if you find yourself in an environment, right, that you felt like would serve you but no longer is serving you and you're not happy with it, we encourage you to drop it,
right out.
Quit.
Exactly. But kind of like what you were saying, your dad was preached into you, like not to quit and stuff like that. This is my particular background. Like my dad is very much so like that as well. And then I was also, you know, an athlete. So quitting meant a lot. It hurt a lot. So that's why I approach things so slowly. And I really evaluate things before I hop into them, so that I don't have to put myself through that heartbreak of having to quit when I no longer want to do something. Right,
because that's a whole situation.
Exactly. So my fear was that it was going to be a while before I found something that spoke to me. Right? So, and in that quote unquote while phase, right? Can I support myself financially while I'm waiting for the thing that actually speaks to me? Or do I have to lie to myself and take something that I know I don't want just for the sake of surviving? And so that was the huge fear coming out of college that I faced. It still did not, again, I'm very slow. I consider myself a tortoise. When I look at things, so I was like, oh, I'm still gonna take my time. I'm not gonna face that fear. But it was over my head. It was over my head, and I was scared. I was really scared because I think this will lead into the next fear that maybe you are willing to share. I wanted to get, in my mind, I felt like I needed to get out the house as soon as possible so I could start making income so I can then come back home and be a support system.
Oh, yeah. Definitely experienced that fear. And I mean, that's a lot of what drives me. And I definitely have and still need to and have worked on that mentality in the past of addressing the trauma that I carried around in regards to Arkansas. You know, also we're going to be heading home. We shared that in the previous episode, going back to Arkansas to visit my mom, etc. And that was always what I would say when I was at university. You know, I did any and everything to avoid returning home to Arkansas just because I was afraid. That was definitely a fear of mine. And
because like when you do return, you want to come home with like the gold, right?
Yeah. Because if I return home, in my mind, it meant that the rug was pulled from underneath me, and I would then be failing because if I returned home without anything to offer, just plates, you know, I'm not bringing any food to the table.
Right.
I didn't like that look for myself. That meant that I wasn't doing what I needed to be doing, and you know, I've definitely addressed that because that's just not the mentality. You know, I think if you're fortunate enough to have parents like ours that care for us, we should use them as a support network because I've already addressed and shared why and what motivates me, and that's to give back to them. So, you know, I think they're very clear on that. So, again, I have a very big issue with accepting help, and I would rarely ask for help from other people. So that's where this fear and trauma is coming from. But I'm addressing it, you know, and I think part of that right now is me going home and being okay with returning home for the reasons that I've decided for myself.
Right.
So yes, absolutely.
And it'll bring a lot of healing too.
Oh, 100%. I have a lot of questions. I'm excited to converse with my mom. You know, that's been a journey, but I'm looking forward to it. You know, and also to share this particular episode. I mean, this is the last episode of the first season, but this episode is going to be released after we've already landed back home. You know, so I'm going to be with my mom when this episode is airing. And shout out to my mom, shout out to my dad for listening to every single one. And shout out to your parents too for listening to every single one.
Try.
They try. Okay, well, my mom is definitely on it. I appreciate you
I love that.
for listening to every single one of our episodes. So... Oh, no, I'm going on a rant, but
no,
you know,
like we're addressing the fears that we face.
We are.
Yeah.
This podcast has really helped my relationship with my mom. I don't know if I think she does. That's just me projecting and also trying to analyze the emotions that she expresses or that I'm picking up when we have conversations, you know, but I definitely think this podcast has helped my relationship with my mom. A, because it's given me a space to vent in an unfiltered way, to speak. You know, we're sitting here in our apartment and it's just you and me and we're having these conversations and there's no interruptions and I just can let my mind wander. And then when my mom or anyone else listens to it, they share with me that, you know, I see you, I hear you. And especially, I think I probably get that from my mom. We can be closed off sometimes, but I think, again, you know, when you listen and I'm talking in an unfiltered way, and you know I'm talking in an unfiltered way, you see me, you hear me. So I feel like I'm talking to my mom.
Aww.
Hi, Mom. Well, that was definitely one of my fears. And in 1 week, I'm going to be home on Mother's Day of all days. That's when we get back, on Mother's Day.
Yeah. And we won't. And the thing is, you know, as we were saying, the fear of coming back empty-handed, we won't. We'll come with a little bouquet of flowers, and that will mean the world to them. And then sometimes we have to realize that we are enough for them. And seeing that through their eyes. Like, they're looking at us right now, and they think the world of us. And even though we don't feel like we're giving them what they deserve yet, they feel it right now. And so just putting ourselves in that space and like getting comfortable with that as we return home to see them is definitely going to develop us into...
Not me getting... No.
The Pisces is here! The little tears.
Woo! Ooh! Shit! Okay.
Yeah.
Another one of my fears is crying on camera. No. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another one of my fears, it's not related to my parents or anything. Ooh, girl, you better get it together. Snap it together. Another one of my fears was going back to in April and May when I was initially graduating. I had really strong community with a lot of the mentees and mentors and professors that were on my campus. And I felt like I gave a lot of community from myself being a resident assistant and working with a lot of the students and sharing as much as I possibly could with them. But when you graduate, that community is no longer there. And one of my fears that goes to how I was feeling then, but also one of the fears that I'm facing now and thinking about constantly is how do I, no longer having the undergirding of an institution, create a community that gives me the similar emotions that I felt when I was back on that campus, or the community that I created when I was studying abroad in a new environment. Those, especially when I was studying abroad, because I was still at an institution, I was still at a university.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult doing that when, you know, we're working 24/7 and you're trying to create new relationships with new people and you're trying to balance all of that. It can be so difficult and overwhelming, and you're always asking yourself, like, am I doing enough? Do the people that I genuinely care about understand that I feel so overworked, and that's why I'm sometimes not responsive online, and I'm taking this time genuinely to disconnect and to heal so that I can show up in my professional space how I want to. That's so difficult for me.
Yeah, that new balance of like maintaining friendship.
Yeah.
Also, that side of you that loves to give back to community, and then simultaneously hustle and grind for that financial freedom that we want. It's tough. And honestly, I mean, given our demographics, I faced the truth that, you know, there's no balancing it. I saw this speech the other day of a working mother who, I think she graduated summa cum laude, and she was giving her speech, and she was saying, everyone always asks me, how are you such an amazing mother? And how are you able to do it all so great? And she said, I'm here to tell you I don't. She says, when you see me excelling in the classroom, I'm missing my daughter's first rehearsal. When you see me with my daughter at a picnic, I'm missing a class online. When you see me giving back to the community and all that gracious lighting on me and like my highlight moment, I'm missing out on, you know, taking my daughter to school. And she says, she said, I'm not going to be a front. And I love this speech because everyone wants to take it in and say, yeah, I can do it all, but we can't. And it's okay, but that is okay. And so now in this phase, when friends are asking me to hang out, I'm telling them, I can't. Yeah. Because I want to, right now in my present moment, I want this more than anything right now. And you, as my friend, love me, and you know I love you. Yeah. You will understand that, like, this is kind of the sacrifice I'm wanting to make, that I'm choosing to make. Yeah. And I'm okay with that. And I think that woman's speech was just so powerful, and I was so thankful for her just giving it like it is. And she was a Black woman. Period. And she has like 3 kids.
Shout out to our Black single mothers.
Hello.
No, shout out. Hello, my mother. Yeah, I'm listening to you share that, and again, I'm trying not to get emotional, but I mean, I'm just thinking about my mom, and yeah, I don't. I literally don't. The way that my mom doesn't have a career so that I can,
it hits.
Breaks me.
Yeah. And she does. That's the thing. She sees it through you. I was watching this new podcast that came out. It's called The Caregiver.
I need that right now.
I know. I think it relates to us. My mom recommended it to me, and she said, you know, I know you feel pressure to provide and like to bring back, and I think this podcast will bring a lot of healing. She said it's been generations of caregiving where, especially in like the Black community, where we are expected to go out and then give up, right? Yeah. And like provide, and then turn around and caregive. And then we demonstrate that in society as well, with people. And it's a lot. It's heavy.
Yeah.
It's heavy.
I did
There's
not
beauty in it.
expect to be out here crying like this, but I feel very healed right now. I'm excited to embark on this next chapter for us, whatever that looks like. We still don't know where we're going to be at.
Literally
after
have
this
no
summer.
idea.
Don't know where that house is at. Don't know where that apartment's at. We've been so fortunate and blessed to have an apartment housing that was found through a friend of yours, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, that's such a close relationship. Not a lot of people oftentimes can say that they are very close with their landlord in the ways in which we've been able to. And just to have that open line of communication and the support from her has been phenomenal. And trying to figure out if we're going to have that, again, is very stressful because, again, for people that are choosing inconsistent income like myself, that can just be so daunting to overcome. So that's definitely one fear. And we've talked about this offline, you know, and the universe works in wonderful ways, as we've seen in this freshman year of being Aftergrads. It works itself out, and I have no fear
of
that we're going to make it happen.
Of course. And don't stress about what's happening 3 months from now. Stress about what's happening today. So when my brain goes there, that's the current mechanism I'm using for that, because that's a fear as well. I'm a little fearful that my next occupation will prohibit me from traveling and experiencing the world as I used to. Yeah. That's my current fear. I love to travel. I love to just be able to say, hey, I want to see you. I'm coming out. Or for my friends to say, I'm pulling up. Can you put some time aside? Or for me to just get out of the country. Yeah. So that's a little bit of nerves I'm having surrounding, you know, my next occupation. But we'll see what happens. Maybe it will be something that's flexible that can work with me. Right. And not maybe, it will. Yeah. It will be something. And that's the thing. I'm no longer on some will, hope, faith. It's going to, God knows where my heart's at, and he knows what I need for this chapter. And if he sees me having a station spot, but within the occupation, they need me to travel, like, there's no telling how it will come about. But that's the one thing I'm praying over, is that it's something that keeps me excited, because I'm a person in the workworce that I get bored really easily. I get bored really easily if I do the same thing over and over. So I really am hoping and praying over, not hoping, I'm praying over something very dynamic to come. And, you know, in these trying times, you know, dynamic in job force is kind of the thing.
It's in right now. It's a requirement for young people like us as Gen Zers.
Exactly. So I'm counting that as a blessing on my behalf.
I require that whenever I'm entering a workspace. I get very bored doing the same thing over and over. And even just in general, I kind of get bored, which is why I consider myself, you know, a multifaceted creative artist. It's because I love working across different mediums and seeing how things interact, especially industries that seemingly wouldn't connect, like math and like media, combining those two together. So I feel that, and I have no doubt that fear is going to be addressed with a job that maybe even enables you to travel.
Exactly.
Right? Maybe,
I think that's what it's going to be.
Exactly. Yeah. And there are positions, even some of my friends, I'm thinking not with the travel sense, but if you're consulting and you're in the consulting industry, a lot of times their positions require them to travel, and their jobs will pay them to travel, which is great. So I don't know what that's going to look like for you, but it's a possibility.
Yeah, so I'm speaking that into existence, and hopefully that comes around, and I will keep you guys updated. Yeah. Do you have another one? Because I got another one.
I kind of expressed, you know, a lot of the fears that I'm feeling right now are kind of the ones that are transitioning from the first year of being an Aftergrad.
So they're still following a little bit.
They definitely are still following. You know, we've talked a lot about the finances, and you were talking about you're hoping and praying to find a position that allows you to travel and to kind of experience the side passions that you have. You don't want to lose yourself in a position that's, I mean, I feel that. I hate corporate, and we've expressed that on this channel. I hate it with a passion. I hate the culture, and I mean, I think most people would probably agree, but just might not say it verbally.
Yeah. They're nodding. They're doing this.
They're nodding. Yeah, they're like, yeah, but then I'm gonna complete my task for the day.
Exactly. But I'm still gonna check in tomorrow.
Which is fine.
That's okay.
I support you in that journey as well. I want to figure out my life as a freelancer. That's my current fear. And, you know, there have been different signs from the universe that have been showing me that you're going to get it figured out. And, you know, one of those signs was, I told you a while ago, and I think I dropped it on the podcast previously, but one of the freelance workshops that I completed back in January for a month, basically, they were just introducing us to becoming a freelancer, what that looks like, filing your taxes, building strong relationships with clients, etc. They bumped me up to essentially their highest level on their platform, which then gives us more access to jobs and positions. So I'm hoping that comes through. They sent me the email just to apply and to submit my bodies of work. So, you know, just small wins like that have been coming through that just give me the energy to keep going.
Bank.
Right, add to the piggy bank and the repository of accolades that are just going to continue to enable us to move forward, push forward. So yeah, that's the fear. I genuinely want to be a freelancer. You know, I consider myself a business, as I've expressed, and I want to build a strong roster of clients and work with brands that are in line with my vision. Yeah. You know, and I want to be in a position where I'm, you know, a brand will come to me and say, okay, we need a photo campaign or we need a marketing campaign, right? Then I build out the team of individuals. So I'm like, oh, Victoria is really good with like data analytics or predicting markets in East Asia, wherever that might be. Oh, I have another graphic design friend that eats at illustration. Let's bring them to the fold so they can do like typography work. They can do the design, layout, etc. So that's what I'm praying over. I don't know when that's going to happen, and I don't care because it will happen eventually. But I'm praying and hoping that comes through very soon for myself.
Oh, love that for you. My other fear is that temptations will get the best of me. Temptations
like
and
what type of temptations?
And also what's the temporary happiness will get the best of me.
Let's speak on it.
Yeah, because I think where we want to be in the next couple of months, it's a hot spot. Yeah. We are in a hot spot now, but I think this spot particularly is going to be popping. It is. And we are very healed people, or very conscious people.
And cautious.
Yeah, cautious, exactly. And that's really rare to come by in a city like the city we want to go to. And so sometimes, like, if you are a light, I kind of see it like, you know, like the Us movie, you know, where the girl was down there and then everybody, all like the people wanted, like she was like dancing or something, and then they all kind of gravitated. I see that in my head, and it's just like staying who I am at the core, not getting too wrapped up in like the highlight and in the spotlight, and just staying grounded. I think that's the thing that in this next year that I'm kind of nervous about, because I already know like the things that we're doing, it's great, it's grand, and I'm not going to shy away from saying that and having confidence saying that. Right. And with that, people or things or ideas in our mind can even distract us from like who we need to be in this given moment. So just staying the course, I think that's the next fear that I have. And it's a fear, but it's not like, oh my God, I'm terrified. It's just
it's just something that has to be achieved, because that, I mean, goes back to the point I was making about showing up. You know, you have to make the conscious choice every single day. If you're going to do something, what it requires is you saying that you're going to do it, you getting up to do it, and then performing and shutting it down. Yeah. And that's easier said than achieved, but it can be done. And I mean, it just starts with showing up. Yeah. And you can do it.
I want to add one more thing to that same fear as a subcategory. Yeah. My friend mentioned it. We speak about it a lot. But she's the first one who brought it to my attention, probably last year, is that what I pour out into the world stays relevant. I don't want to be, you know, in, out. I want to like really leave a lasting impression on people. Yeah. When I give back, I want it to have longevity when I'm no longer here.
Talk on
and
that.
So even right now, what I'm currently doing compared to what I will be doing in the future, I want it to stay relevant, and I want it to be an aid to anyone and anybody. And so that's one fear, is like staying creative, keeping that creative flow, that creative juice, and making sure I know my tactics to keep that going so that I can keep producing new things and new ideas. Because people will copy, and that will always be a thing, but to stay innovative does take a certain level of maintenance of self. And so that is my other fear that I'm just keeping note of as we enter our second season.
As we enter our second season.
Bring new topics to the table for our Aftergrads that like, for the Aftergrad family.
Right.
That keep us afloat in this
keep us grounded
time.
Yeah, because it takes a village, it takes a team,
Yeah.
and I'm grateful to have you in this effort of keeping ourselves grounded, addressing these fears that we have for this next chapter. Lean in to the community, your community, even though you might be in a space, in a scenario, moment where that community might be being pulled away from you. Reach out to the people. I mean, that goes back to how this all started with you and me. It literally just took a simple text, a check-in with someone that I hadn't seen in a really long time. And those are the choices that I don't look back on, could never regret. And I have no doubt that we're going to be back here at the end of season 2. We're going to address these fears again for the umpteenth time. And it's going to be the same story.
Right.
It's going to be us saying we conquered those fears. We ate it up, actually.
We
did it.
We did.
And, there's still new fears.
Yeah.
There's still new things to address. But, it's like you have a to-do list and you just check it off slowly.
One thing at a time.
But then there's new subtasks that come up every now and then underneath those original tasks, i.e. the fears, right? So you might have to go back and erase that slash and readdress it. And that's okay.
We have new Aftergrads coming out. We hope whatever fears that you're feeling right now, that this episode can help ease them. We don't know if they'll necessarily answer your particular fears, but you're not alone. You aren't alone at all. Just stay living.
Stay living.
Keep your light.
One other fear was this. It's not even a fear. It's just, I had a question. Was everyone else experiencing post-grad depression? Like, were you feeling down immediately after walking across the stage? And, we kind of mentioned that earlier, but, there was a period where anxiety was high, depression was...
If I stayed home.
If you stayed home.
If I stayed home.
Ate you up.
That's why I knew I had to get out. I didn't even care if it was the right city or not. And my mom wanted me out too. Not like, get out. But like, she was like, no, you need to go.
It's
like,
your time.
It's good. It's going to be healthy for you.
And I think, going back to the fear of returning home, I think that we have the perspective that we do because we chose to leave immediately after graduating, because it's that distance. If you go back and listen to our I Want to Go Home episode where we talk a little bit more in depth on that fear, that anxiety of returning home, that's definitely how I'm reflecting on it. It's the distance and the time. It's been a year. That's a long time to reflect and heal. And for me, that's the way that I compress and deal with anxiety. I do need to be by myself, and I know I've shared that before. I need time to sit with my thoughts, to process, and then at a later moment, we can have a conversation. We can address and heal, but I need to heal on my own first. And I think I was able to do that. I think we were able to do that.
But I guess you're saying for those who maybe they can't leave home immediately and that depression is sinking in.
That's where I was going at.
That's really tough.
That is tough.
I saw this one commercial, well done. I take note of these commercials now, but it was a therapy commercial. And they were showing people who were trying to give advice to people who suffer with depression, and it was saying, do better, or it's a choice, or, it was purposely doing that. And then, the person's just sitting there, just dumbfounded, like none
really?
of this is helping.
Right.
I never feel right to give advice to someone who is suffering with depression. Because it's a very complex situation. And postgraduate depression is different.
And not a lot of people talk about it.
Post-pregnancy depression, different. There's just so many avenues.
So I guess on that note, not giving advice, I'm not trying to give advice. I think I just wanted to ask that question because I wanted you all to know that you're not alone in that feeling, because I felt it myself.
Definitely want to validate. I want to validate that it's a normal, not normal. Do I want to say it's normal?
I do want to say it's normal.
It's a normal feeling. You're not alone. But with knowing that you do have it, what do you feel comfortable doing? Like, where do you want your source of light to come from?
Hopefully
we'll have resources.
Oh yeah, that's another thing in the future. Tons of resources. That that even goes into when we're sharing our post thoughts segment with you all. You know, we're trying to think about what it is that we're reflecting on and that's adding value to you, and then we try to contextualize it for all of you. That segment isn't going away anytime soon. It's going to be something consistent throughout the show, you know, and I think we want this to be, as we've always said, a two-way street, a community. So if there's other segments or other topics that you want us to address, we're not going to be filming throughout the summer, but you're definitely going to be seeing us. You know, we're going to be sharing these episodes and clips from it. We're going to be sharing resources. Definitely follow us on our IG, of course. And yeah, lots of fun activity planned for season 2. Yeah. But we also on this channel want to promote and glorify the need and necessity to take rest and to take breaks.
Yeah, so therefore we're
taking a break.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
But we will be back. There's no doubt about that in the fall. And stay tuned, like you were saying, stay tuned into us so you can hear when those dates will drop.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, for sure. We have a lot in store.
Absolutely. You know, and that's it for this episode. You know, I don't even know. Thank y'all for being with us. Yeah, just thank you guys for the people that have commented, for the people, our friends, family, that have shown love, that have poured into us, that have said that we're doing a great job. Thank you. That means the world to us. As we showed today, you know, we did another case study, very long. Thank you for sending that in. If there's anything that's going on in your life, in your aftergrad journey that you want us to feature in future episodes, we want to have those continued. So definitely share those with us. You can send them to our email address. That's open. Or you can DM us on Instagram.
Even during summertime.
Even during the summertime. Absolutely. We prefer during the summertime because that'll give us an opportunity to plan for season 2. And we'll also... what you want to see. But we'll also respond too. You know, if you just want to pick our brains too or just connect, you can DM us or email us and we'll happily respond. But we could also still feature it on the show in a future episode. So know that that option is available as well.
Any final thoughts, friend?
Thank y'all for bearing with me as I poured my eyes out on this here camera. But we are a lot stronger than we give ourselves credit for.
That one.
That's where I'm at. I always knew, you know, I was a hard worker. I could put my head down, get the work done. But, you know, I still have those moments where I'm like, is this it? Are you capable? Come on. But definitely after this first year, wrapping it up, I'm strong.
It's chewable. Yeah, I'm digesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's eat more.
Let's eat more, because I am hungry. I am hungry, but I do want to take a break to let my food settle.
Yeah, of course, fasting's healthy.
It is healthy, but I'm not doing the fast. That's you. That's your journey. And I love that for you and any of our other fasters out there. That's really important. It's just, I'm feeling sad because we're trying to wrap up this episode, but I don't want to wrap it up. I think that's why I'm sitting here, you know, trying to figure it out because we're going on a break, you guys. Like, and I don't want to say goodbye to you all.
But it's not.
I know, it's not.
As creators, it's so healthy. We're only going to bring back more ideas. And we don't want to be, you know, staying in the same stories that we lived. Yeah. So I'm going to try to have I'm just gonna have a warm summer. I don't know. I don't want to say it's popping off or anything like that, but I'm just gonna have a quality summer with myself, with friends and family, with intimate friends and family, and then hopefully hear more stories surrounding me that will give me inspiration as well for the channel. So it's all great and grand.
All right.
And with that, I'm ready to close.
You're ready to close. This is the end of season 1. Thank you all for tuning in to our 15 episodes. Much more to come in season 2. And we're looking forward to reconnecting with you in the fall.
Yes.
Thank you guys.
All right. And with that, this is the Aftergrad podcast. See you soon.
See you soon.
Bye.
Ciao. We're done.